السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Before commencing, as we are speaking right now, humble request for du'as for Maulana Taha Karan. His family currently, I think he is in his last, currently assuming that he's in Sakarat and they are reading Kalima at his bedside. They assume he's in his final stages. The doctors are also gave up hope. In fact, there's already a rumor floating around that he passed away, but he's still alive. To make dua for him, a very great scholar. In fact, he's an ustad, but his personality was such that he was more like a friend. Alhamdulillah, I had the opportunity of hosting him in Egypt when he used to come for the book fair. Likewise, whenever he comes to Johannesburg, then we always meet. And we had on many, many occasions made amal, on the practice of the pious of the past, that they sit from Isha till Fajr and discuss and talk. So many times in Egypt, also in here also, from Isha till Fajr we used to speak. And even in Cape Town, when I used to go to Cape Town, to make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses him with afiyah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps him so that the ummah can continue benefiting. So we are discussing the following text from Nuzha, where Ibn Hajar rahmallah said, وَالثالث الْمُنْكَرْ عَلَى رَأْيِ مَنْ لَا يَشْتَرِطُ فِي الْمُنْكَرْ كَيْدَ الْمُخَالَفَةِ وَكَذَا الرَّابِعُ وَالْخَامِسُ فَمَنْ فَحُشَ غَلَطُهُ أَوْ كَثُرَتْ غَفْلَتُهُ أَوْ ظَهَرَ فِسْقُهُ فَحَدِيثُهُ munkar. I told you to read over it and see what you understand, and you probably must have understood that Ibn Hajar rahmallah is claiming that if a narrator has the third, fourth or fifth blemish, then the narration will be called munkar. And this is also how most of the commentators understood it, and they've even explained it like this. So that means that if a narrator makes frequent mistakes, fahshul ghalat, or if he is extremely negligent, or if he commits major sins, or maybe is habitual of minor sins, if there's fisq, then the narration will be munkar. However, if you assume that, then it will not make sense, because Ibn Hajar rahmallah clearly qualifies it and says, "Ala ra'yi man la yashtaritu fil munkar qayd al mukhalafa." So if you're going to take that meaning, then it's either going to be that the text of Nuzha does not make sense, or it's going to mean that Ibn Hajar rahmallah brought words out of place and he did not explain it correctly, or it would mean that Ibn Hajar rahmallah is not telling us what these will be called according to him. So that means earlier he coined the new meaning for munkar, and we done that, and we also explained that he was the first one, and it's more like a suggestion for those after him how to use the word munkar. But now, when he comes to discussing how previous scholars use the word munkar, then he's just leaving us in the lurch. He's leaving us suspended, not telling us now what should we call this. So that cannot be the case, and therefore we will have to revisit this text. Upon studying it further, we realize that if we merely change the punctuation marks, then all of this will make sense also, and it will confirm to his other books as well, and it will confirm to how he himself used the term. So if you open, or if you go back to the text of Nukhbatul Fikr, so in some of your, depending which print you got, maybe it's in bold, or maybe it's in red, or in a different color, maybe it's on top, or maybe in the back of your kitab, or in the front of your kitab. So you open the matan to Nukhbatul Fikr, and I hope you all memorizing it, and at least memorize until where we have reached thus far. So nevertheless, when you come here, you'll see that the text goes فالأول الموضوع والثاني المتروك والثالث المنكر على رأي وكذا الرابع والخامس. This is how it's written in نخبة الفكر. Now, again, depending which copy you got, they put the punctuation marks different. So if you have Sheikh Rahili's copy, then after the word al-matruk there is a full stop, and after wathalis there is a colon in Sheikh Rahili's copy, and there is nothing in the copy of Sheikh Nuruddin Itr. in this copy of mine. Likewise, after the word al-Munkar, there is a comma in the copy of Sheikh Rahili, but Sheikh Nuruddin Itr did not put anything again. And then, after the word Ra'i, Sheikh Rahili put a full stop, and Sheikh Nuruddin Itr put a comma. So, looking at it from Sheikh Rahili's copy, if after the word al-Thalith, we change that colon and we put it into a comma. So if you have a pencil, if after the word al-Thalith, put a comma there, then remove the comma after al-Munkar. So now there's nothing which comes after Munkar. That is how it is in Sheikh Nuruddin Itr's. Now the words ala ra'yi, if you put that into brackets, so we consider it to be a jumla mu'tarida. You put that into brackets. So that's Sheikh Rahili's copy. If you have Sheikh Nuruddin Itr's copy, he didn't put any punctuation marks after al-Thalith. So just put a comma there, and then he didn't put after, anything after the word al-Munkar, so that's fine. So just put ala ra'yi in brackets. So now the text will read like this here. فَالْأَوَّلُ الْمَوْضُوعُ وَالثَّانِي الْمَتْرُوكُ وَالثَّالِث. Now al-Munkar ala ra'yi is in brackets, so you ignore it for now. So فَالْأَوَّلُ الْمَوْضُوعُ وَالثَّانِي الْمَتْرُوكُ وَالثَّالِثُ وَكَذَا الرَّابِعُ وَالْخَامِسُ. So now what does this text of Nukhba means? It means that the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth, all of these will be called a matruk. So this is how it is when you are looking at it in Nukhbatul Fikr, and maybe it's fine there. But when you come to Nuzha, you see he's clearly saying, فَمَنْ فَحُشَ غَلَطُهُ أَوْ كَثُرَتْ غَفْلَتُهُ أَوْ ظَهَرَ فِسْقُهُ فَحَدِيثُ مُنْكَرٌ. So we can simply say that this is an explanation for what's in brackets. Now, you might think that this guy is just thumb sucking. You might be wondering what I'm saying, that I'm coming up with such a different thing. You might think I'm pulling it out from my pocket, that commentators didn't mention this. So maybe I'm just pulling a fast one. Yeah. So first, listen to my explanation, and then you can decide whether to follow what I am saying or whether to follow what the commentators are saying. So my proof, firstly, that all of these, Athani, Wathalith, and Rabi, and Khamis, all will be called Matruk. That, you know, in the last lesson, we quoted the definition of Matruk from Tadrib al-Rawi, where Allama Suyuti, rahmallah, said, وَفَسَّرَهُ بأن يرويه من يتهم بالكذب ولا يعرف ذلك الحديث إلا من جهته ويكون مخالفا للقواعد المعلومة. Right? And then after that, he said, وتقدمت الإشارة إليه عقب الشاذ والمنكر. So, this definition which Allama Suyuti gave here, it conforms what was Ibn Hajar wrote on page 88. But like we explained in the last lesson, that he didn't mention it here. So what Allama Suyuti rahmallah just done is he took the word tuhmatul rawiya, and then he looked 2 pages back and he used the word tuhmatul rawi. He got the explanation from there, and that's how he gave the definition. But now he made reference to an earlier place in Tadrib al-Rawi. So when we go back to that text, Allama Suyuti rahmallah explained there Ibn Hajar's definition of munkar by saying, he first said, قال الشيخ الإسلام أن الشاذ والمنكر. So remember again, it's under the chapter of munkar. يجتمعان في اشتراط المخالفة ويفترقان في أن الشاذ راويه ثقة أو صدوق والمنكر راويه ضعيف. Thereafter he quotes from Nuzha and he says, وحينئذ فالحديث الذي لا مخالفة فيه وراويه متهم بالكذب بأن لا يروى إلا من جهتهم وهو مخالف للقواعد المعلومة. So until here what he's mentioning, it's exactly the same like what he mentioned later in Tadrib al-Rawi. But now look what he is saying. أو عرف به في غير also this part here is in conformity with page 88. أو عرف به في غير الحديث النبوي. But now after that what he is saying? He's saying أو كثير الغلط أو الفسق أو الغفلة يسمى المتروك. So can you see? He's saying كثير الغلط, fisq and ghafla, which is the third, fourth and fifth. He's saying all of it is called matruk. This is in page 384 of the Tadrib al-Rawi. So he did not say it's munkar. He called it matruk. So can you see him? He's clearly saying, he's actually attributing it to Ibn Hajar rahimahullah. So that means that he's quoting this ibara. And he mentions, he's mentioning it under the chapter of Munkar, but saying that it's called matruk. So I hope you understand after the lesson, when the notes are posted, then you can read it properly and understand my point. So this is what Allama Suyuti explained at an earlier place in Tadrib al-Rawi. So you can see it confirms with the explanation which I gave, even though the commentaries of Nuzha to Nazar does not explain it like that. Now looking at another book, Allama Suyuti rahmallah also added these three categories under the definition of matruk when he had to officially define it from his own side. So there he is quoting Ibn Hajar. But now with full confidence in his Alfiya, he says, وَسَمِّ بِالْمَتْرُوكِ فَرَدًا تُصِبِهِ رَاوٍ لَهُ مُتَّهَمًا بِالْكَذِبِ أَوْ عَرَفُوهُ مِنْهُ فِي غَيْرِ الْأَثَرِ أَوْ فِسْقٌ أَوْ غَفْلَةٌ أَوْ وَهْمٌ كَثُرٌ. So again you can see, he's talking here about matruk, and what he's mentioning, أَوْ فِسْقٌ أَوْ غَفْلَةٌ أَوْ وَهْمٌ كَثُرٌ. That fisq also falls under the definition of matruk. Ghafla also falls under the definition of matruk, and excessive mistakes also fall under the definition of matruk. But now you can think that maybe Imam Suyuti rahmallah is making a mistake in understanding this text, and the commentators of Nuzha understood it more correct. So maybe I am being incorrect in following the understanding of Allama Suyuti. So let me give you now additional proofs, and like I said, you can study my proofs. If it makes sense, you can follow what I am telling you. And if it does not make sense, then you can take the what the commentators mentioned. So I humbly believe here that Ibn Hajar rahmallah meant to say that all of this is matruk, and therefore I told you how to put the ibara. Now a very strong point which I have to present is from Ibn Hajar rahmallah himself. If you go to the Nukat of Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, then he mentions there, he quotes Imam Muslim rahmallah. Imam Muslim rahmallah is talking about Munkar in his Muqaddimah. So he says, وعلامة المنكر في حديث المحدث إذا ما عرضت روايته للحديث على رواية غيره من أهل الحفظ والرضا خالفت روايته روايتهم أو لم تكد توافقها. So this here is, we quoted this text a lot because it also teaches you how to test the dhabt of a rawi, etc. So nevertheless, after quoting this text of Imam Muslim in his Nukat, and remember, Imam Muslim said, وَعَلَامَةُ الْمُنْكَرِ. What Ibn Hajar rahmallah says immediately after quoting it, he says, قُلْتُ فَالرُّوَاتُ الْمَوْصُوفُونَ بِهَذَا هُمُ الْمَتْرُوكُونَ. Can you see? He's saying that whoever has these qualities where they make so many mistakes. Because remember again that this here is when you are comparing the narrations and you find that his narrations are not matching those who are known to have good memories. So it means that he's making mistakes. Or maybe he was negligent. So he's saying that if a rawi is like this here, فَالرُّوَاتُ الْمَوْصُوفُونَ بِهَذَا هُمُ الْمَتْرُوكُونَ. He's saying they are matruk. And like I explained, that the word was used on a text very, very minimal before Ibn Hajar. It was always very frequently used on narrators. So Ibn Hajar rahmallah is very, very clearly saying that when you compare his narrations and you found that there are many mistakes, then it is matruk. And like we're saying that Imam Muslim is mentioning it about Munkar. And also Imam Muslim is not mentioning anything about being muttahamam, tuhmatul rawi bil kadhib, of him quoting a narration which goes against qawa'id, or of him being a liar. So this clearly shows that the third, fourth and fifth falls under matruk. And also remember that the Nukat was the last book which Ibn Hajar rahmallah was working on before he passed away. And like that, he was also going through a Nuzha with his students. So this here is a very clear and emphatic proof from his Nukat. Now that we have this clear proof, we can use the following text of Nukat to strengthen the point. So this is not our primary proof. It's just now strengthening our point. Because obviously, if we have to mention it as a primary proof, then you can argue. So now we're saying that it's to strengthen the point. Under the chapter of Hassan in his Nukat, Ibn Hajar quotes Ibn Taymiyyah and he says, إِنَّمَا هَذَا اصْطِلَاحٌ لِلتِّرْمِذِي. That this term Hassan is, Imam Tirmidhi uses it like this, وَغَيْرُ التِّرْمِذِي مِنْ أَهْلِ الْحَدِيثِ لَيْسَ عِنْدَهُمْ إِلَّا صَحِيحٌ وَضَعِيفٌ. Now he's explaining, وَالضَّعِيفُ عِنْدَهُمْ مَنْ حَطَّ عَنْ دَرَجَةِ الصَّحِيحِ ثُمَّ قَدْ يَكُونُ مَتْرُوكًا. So now he's saying that sometimes it could be matruk. Ibn Taymiyyah is explaining what is matruk. He says,
وهو أن يكون راويه متهما. So that goes in conformity with what Ibn Hajar rahimahullah mentioned. And والقسم الثاني. But then after that what he says, أو كثير الغلط. Can you see? He's saying, oh, if he makes lots of mistakes, then he will be matruk. So Ibn Hajar rahimahullah did not make ta'aqqub on that. Like that we could, we're saying that it's just used to strengthen the point. It's not a primary thing. To show you that he didn't say that no, when it's kathirul ghalat, it's not matruk, it's munkar. He accepted it. If you go through the kitab of Allama Zahabi rahimahullah in Al-Muqizam, he brought a new term and he called it matruh. So al-matruh, and he defined matruh as saying, man hatta an rutbati al-da'if. What is matruh? It is that which is more inferior than da'if. So Allama Sakhawi rahimahullah quoted Ibn Hajar's comments on this term. Firstly, Allama Sakhawi mentions from his own side, he says, يقع في كلامهم المطروح وهو غير الموضوع جزما وقد أثبته الذهبي نوعا مستقلا. Right? So this is his mentioning this here. Thereafter he's saying قال شيخنا, referring to Ibn Hajar, وهو المتروك في التحقيق. That what is matruh? It is متروك يعني الذي زاده في نخبته وتوضيحها وعرفه بالمتهم راوي بالكذب. But now the point is that if you have to look at the examples which he has given, he says that وَمَثَّلَ لَهُ بِحَدِيثِ عَمْرِ بْنِ شُمَرْ عَنْ جَابِرِ الْجُعْفِ عَنِ الْحَسَنِ عَنْ عَلِي. So this all show that it's used for those who would make frequent mistakes. So this is Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, just what we got from his statements. Now let us explore the usage of the word matruh, or how scholars before Ibn Hajar rahimahullah used the word. So a very clear and amazing sentence in Al-Jarh wa Ta'dil, speaking about Ayyub bin Khawt. And in any of the books of Rijal, when you go under Ayyub bin Khawt, you will find them using the word matruk for him. But now we're going to quote it from here, because look what Amr bin Ali is saying with him. وَهُوَ مَتْرُوكُ الْحَدِيثِ. He's saying that he is matruk. لَمْ يَكُنْ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكَذِبِ. So clearly negating what Ibn Hajar mentioned in the second point. But now he's saying that he's matruk. So how is he matruk? لَمْ يَكُنْ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكَذِبِ. كَانَ كَثِيرَ الْغَلَطِ كَثِيرَ الْوَهْمِ. And you see, he's matruk because he used to make a lot of mistakes and a lot of wahm. So that shows that these additional three portions, according to the usage of earlier scholars, will also fall under matruk. And Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, like I said, you can open any of the books of Rijal. So if you just go to Tahzib al-Tahzib, you'll find Ibn Hajar quoting lots of these statements. He quotes Imam Nasai and Imam Darqutni saying that it is matruk. Thereafter, he quotes this very same statement of Amr bin Ali. And he also quotes Abu Hatim saying that he is matruk. So this is in one place in Al-Jarh wa Ta'dil. And in another place, it comes there that with regards to a particular narrator, that As-Salt bin Dinar, it comes there, matrukul hadith. And why is he matrukul hadith? Because of kathirul ghalat, because he used to make lots and lots of mistakes. So, can we say that the Mutaqaddimun had a slightly wider definition of matrukul hadith for a rawi? Yes, so that's what we're going to come to our conclusion. So at the conclusion, it's going to be our point to prove it. The conclusion is that why are we studying terminologies? Why are we learning all this istilahat? And that is going to be my reinforcement point to show you. So nevertheless, here you can see that he's using it for kathirul ghalat. So yes, the Mutaqaddimun have this wide and broad usage. Then we find Ibn al-Jawzi rahimahullah elaborating on the term when Imam Nasai used it. Now remember, Imam Darqutni and Imam Nasai, they were the two who used a lot. Like when you go through books of Rijal, you're going to find them many times saying and commenting on a rawi matrukul hadith. So they are the two scholars who used it a lot. So now explaining what Imam Nasai meant in al-Du'afa wal-Matrukun, under the profile of Salih bin Bashir, he mentions there that قال النسائي متروك الحديث. Then Ibn al-Jawzi is saying, هذا الرجل كان من أهل الخير لا يتعمد الكذب. That this person is a pious person. He never used to lie. So then how is Imam Nasai calling him matruk? وَإِنَّمَا يَغْلِطُ لِقِلَّةِ مَعْرِفَتِهِ بِالْحَدِيثِ. So that's the third point. وَغَفْلَتِهِ عَنِ الْإِتْقَانِ وَالْحِفْظِ. So that's the fourth point which Ibn Hajar rahmallah mentioned here. In this way, when you find some scholars claiming that the narrator is matruk, and then you find others saying that he made lots of mistakes, now you can understand that there is no contradiction between them. So, for example, you will find under the entry of Abdullah bin Waqid that Imam Nasai said matrukul hadith. Likewise, but Yahya bin Ma'in said kana kathir al-ghalat. So this means now that there is no contradiction between what Imam Nasai is saying and between what Yahya bin Ma'in is saying, because kathir al-ghalat equals matrukul hadith. Likewise, at another place, random examples, and this here is example of, we can give actually one example of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah himself. So we're not going to go into the whole discussion on whether it's accurate or not, but you'll find that an-Naḍar bin Shumayl said huwa matrukul hadith, but Imam Nasai now is saying that huwa kathirul ghalati wal khata'i, that he's made lots of mistakes. Whether this is correct or not, it's another whole discussion. Like I said, we need about 6 to 8 hours to discuss all of that. So you can see scholars before Ibn Hajar are using it in this broad sense, which is incorporating all of these. Likewise, you remember that statement we quoted of Ibn Dihya al-Kalb. So he mentions there that explaining what is matruk, he said, وَالْغَالِبُ عَلَى حَدِيثِهِ الْوَهْمِ. So again, he's proving that wahm also falls under the definition of matruk. And there's so many other examples that you can give, but this here suffices to prove our point. In fact, at times you can even get an idea that they use the word matruk in the lughwi sense. For example, if you have to look at Sharh Ilal al-Tirmidhi, قد تقدم أن رواة الحديث أربعة أقسام. So the first is من هو متهم بالكذب, right? And then now under this here, من هو صادق لكن يغلب على حديثه الغلط والوهم بسوء حفظه وهذا القسمان متروكان. So can you see that putting كثير الغلط, putting وهم all under matruk. So that's the point which I'm trying to say, is that why are we doing all these terminologies? To understand what these past scholars said. Like I'm saying, there are so many examples. So when you're going to go through all of these books and you're going to find all these scholars saying that a particular person is matruk, so don't think that you used to speak lies, because it's not necessary, or that you would narrate things which you would be independent in narrate things which goes against the qawaid of Sharia. Don't think that it's confined to that, rather it's used in a much more broad sense. Okay, so now you could say, okay, maybe Ibn Hajar rahmallah is telling us that he's coming with a new usage. So let us inspect Ibn Hajar's own usage. That earlier we discussed his explanation when from Nukat explaining Imam Muslim rahmallah. So now let us see how he himself practically used the term. So in Taqrib al-Tahdhib, he very, very clearly used it for someone who made lots of mistakes. For example, under the entry of Abdul Aziz bin Imran, he mentions with regards to him that matrukun, he's matruk. Why is he matruk? He didn't say because he used to speak lots of lies. No, he says that اخترقت كتبه فحدث من حلته فاشتد غلطه. That this is the reason why he is matruk, because all his kitabs burnt, and now he started to narrate from his memory, and because of that he started to make lots of mistakes. So because of lots of mistakes, therefore he is matruk. So Ibn Hajar rahimahullah himself is using the word matruk for someone who made lots of mistakes. Likewise, he narrated from another narrator that he also that people used to tell him what to narrate, and he would narrate based on what they used to tell him and make mistakes, and therefore it's called matruk. So if you go Muhammad bin Muawiyah, he says matrukun, that he's matruk. Why? لأنه كان يتلقن, because people used to tell him the ahadith, and based on how they used to quote it to him, based on how they would inform him, he would quote it, and therefore he's matruk, so he would make lots of mistakes. So now we find that Ibn Hajar is also using the word matruk in that meaning. It is in this light that if you go now at the end of this kitab on our front, if you open to page 136, you find that he put fahishul ghalat and he put matruk in one and the same category. So if you open to page 136, you say فَقَوْلُهُمْ مَتْرُوكٌ أو ساقط أو فاحش الغلط. So you can see he put the word matruk and fahish al-ghalat in one and the same category. So now, okay, like the question which you asked, maybe it's only scholars before Ibn Hajar. So let's look at how scholars now after Ibn Hajar rahimahullah used the term. So we quoted from Allama Suyuti rahimahullah, and obviously he was a great muhaddith. If you look Sheikh Ahmad Shakir in the footnotes, there he mentioned الراوي إذا انفرد بالحديث وكان متهما بالكذب سواء في الحديث وفي غيره أو بالفسق أو كان ذا غفلة أو كثير الوهم سمي من فرد به المتروك. So you can see again, but then after he clearly mentions that هذا تعريف اصطلاحا عند المتأخرين وقد يستعمل أهل الشأن ويقصرون به المقابل للحديث المعمول به. So this is, you can see Sheikh Ahmad Shakir is using it like this. Likewise, if you have to look Sheikh Jamaluddin Al-Qasimi in Qawaid al-Tahdith, how he defined the word matruk. He said, السابع المتروك وهو ما يرويه متهم بالكذب ولا يعرف إلا من جهته ويكون مخالفا للقواعد المعلومة. So until here, or rather after that, he said, أو معروف بالكذب في أو معروف بال أو معروف بالكذب في غير الحديث النبوي. So until here it makes sense and it goes under what Ibn Hajar mentioned and the qism الثاني. But then after he says أو كثير الغلط أو الفسق أو الغفلة. So can you see he's putting these remaining three categories also under matruk. And also on the question you asked, remember how we explained 2 lessons back that scholars before Ibn Hajar, they did not even regard it as a special terminology, nor did they dedicate a chapter to it. So from Ibn Hajar, it was now made as a official terminology, and after him, now you see scholars using it. Likewise, Sheikh Nuruddin Itr, so you saw here in the taliqat, in the footnotes, how he explained the matruk. He followed Allama Suyuti, basically taking from page 88 and taking the meaning of tuhmatul rawi from there, and then giving the definition of matruk. But if you have to go to a manhajun naqd, you will find that he, Sheikh Nuruddin Itr rahmallah himself said, ثم الضعف الشديد وهو الناشئ عن فحش الغلط والغفلة أو كون الراوي متهما بمفسق وهذا متروك. So can you see, he's again putting these additional 3 under the category of matruk. Likewise, if you have to go, so you know Sheikh Bashir Ali, he done this whole study on Imam Ahmad rahmallah. Today when you're going to read about the Muslim Ahmad, etc., you need to read this kitab. So under this, he's now studying how Imam Ahmad would use the term. So then he says, وَقَدْ عَرَّفَ الْحافِظ ابن حجر حديث من فحش غلطه أو كثرت غفلته أو ظهر فسقه بالمنكر على رأي من لا يشترط في المنكر المخالفة. Now he's mentioning in light of his study. والراوي الذي فحش غلطه أو كثرت غفلته هو المتروك. Can you see? So again, the third category, fourth category is putting it all under matruk. When defining matruk, you all done Bayquniya, isn't you know it off by heart. So if we're in a live class, I would have told you to read it, but nevertheless, so how did he define matruk? He said, ما واحد به انفرد, isn't? So that's his definition. وأجمعوا لضعفه فهو كرد. So this is the definition which he gave. Now if you go to, so it has nothing to do with tuhmatul kadhib on what Ibn Hajar explained and what Allama Suyuti and Sheikh Nuruddin took from it. But nevertheless, if you have to open Sheikh Abdullah Sirajuddin's explanation on page 194, see now taking into consideration this is how he defines matruk. المتروك هو ما رواه راو واحد متهم بالكذب في الحديث أو ظاهر الفسق بفعل أو قول أو كثير الغفلة أو كثير الوهم. So can you see? He's taking all these additional categories and he's putting it under matruk. So now I hope my explanation of how we just need to change the ibara slightly makes sense. So that's why we discussed how scholars before Ibn Hajar used so many different scholars, then how Ibn Hajar himself, his practical usage, likewise his own explanation, scholars after him, Now, if you have to look at all of this, you can understand the meaning of which Shu'bah rahimahullah mentioned, that it is about and actually this here, so we're mentioning that it's the 5. So our conclusion thus far is that it's the 4, and in the previous lesson we proved that they also used it for mawdu'. So that means all of the first 5 categories are called matruk also, and they had their individual specific names. So, for example, mawdu' is specific to fabrications, but it could also be called matruk. Likewise, a rawi who fabricates can also be called matruk. Then we find that they also used it beyond that. So if you look at the next category after that, they used it for that as well. So if remember we said that Imam Dar-Qutni would use the term a lot. So if you go in his Ilzamat wa Tatabbu', where he made all his rad on Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah. So he mentions there, وأخرج البخاري حديث عمران بن حطان عن ابن عمر عن عمر في لبس الحرير. So he mentions that Imam Bukhari, but he's making it on Imam Bukhari. Imam Bukhari narrated from him. Thereafter he's saying, وعمران متروك, and he's giving the reason why is he matruk. لسوء اعتقاده, because of having incorrect aqidah. Now turn back to page 88 if you got the same print of mine and see where bid'ah is. Bid'ah is the second last one. That means the 9th category. So you can see how broad the term is. The word matruk, it's not just used so simply. It just and like we're saying, that it's now confirmed to that Shu'bah rahimahullah, because when he was asked that when is a person's hadith, will he be regarded as matruk? He say, may yakzibu fil hadith, wa may yaksuru al-ghalat, wa may yukhti'u fi hadithin mujtama'an alayh, fa yuqimu ala ghalatihi fala yarji'. So this, therefore, I'm telling you that the better way of explaining this ibarah, and for it to make sense, is like that. And I'm not giving a definition, I'm just explaining to you reality. That the reality is that scholars use the word matruk like this, whether you accept it as a definition or not, or whether you accept this explanation of mine or not. Ibn Hajar rahmallah himself used the word matruk. Then ultimately Ibn Hajar rahmallah himself, so whether you don't accept, and if you don't want to accept this explanation of mine, Ibn Hajar put matruk and munkar in the same category. You remember we quoted just now from page 136. So go back to that. You'll see فَقَوْلُ مَتْرُوكٌ أَوْ سَاقِطٌ أَوْ فَاحِشُ الْغَلَطِ أَوْ مُنْكَرُ الْحَدِيثِ. So matruk and munkar al-hadith, they are all in the same category. La mushahata fil istilah. Basically matruk and munkar is the same thing. Sometimes you use the word matruk, sometimes you use the word munkar. Inshallah we'll continue on Saturday. Until then, jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.